You. Okay, 4:30, I guess we'll start the meeting. Well, roll call.
Here.
It's like, okay. And we're waiting for the village president is also here. Like they ask for a motion to approve the agenda and approve the committee minutes from April 6th, 2022 or 23, sorry.
So moved.
Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none opposed, we'll go on to the next agenda item. Public comments. So no. Mr. Stewart, do you have any comments at all?
No.
Nothing you'd like to share with us?
No.
Okay. Anything online?
It'll be online.
Okay.
No.
Chairman's comments. I guess my only comments at this time is that I did review the pit meeting and see that it's been moved over to the FHR committee, and I guess we'll discuss that later. And see the adjustments. If possible, going to the board with any adjustments or motions. Other than that, I have nothing. Number 7, discuss the motion to approve the monthly bills, journal entries, and previous months and financial report.
I'd make that motion.
I'll second.
Okay. With that, any discussion? No discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That, will approve that. Discussion on the TIF Economic Incentive Draft Program, as discussed by the PIT Committee, possibly a motion to approve to the village board. Boz, I've read it. I don't have an issue with it. Does anybody have anything? Boz, do you wanna?
It had no hard comments on it. They just wanted to move it here because it is a financial program that would have to be approved by not only this committee, but the board. If approved, then what I would bring back to this committee would be an application form. What we would be doing for all these programs. And the only clarification that I guess we need to make sure is in here as well as addressed is who do you want this to be administered by? Is the administrator the guy or gal approving the projects and informing y'all, or are all these projects being brought to either PIT or here for the final? PIT was fine with the administrator. But we just gotta make sure that there's consensus on that, so that was the only,
And this is all TIF money, basically, and we're
it's all
just
TIF money, yeah, TIF money,
TIF projects.
well, TIF money. But within the TIF district,
Okay.
Actually, I think for having everybody get invested in it, I think bringing it to the board might be a good idea.
One committee or the whole board?
Through PIT and the board. We don't typically make any final decisions at committee. We push it
Yeah,
forward.
I was just for clarification.
Unless there was a time restraint that it would make more sense, and then maybe even shooting out an email asking for feedback. I just think it's important that we all really stay tuned in and understand what we're doing and are prepared to be up to speed and communicating with any residents or businesses that may have inquiries.
I don't disagree with that. But if we set a committee, such as the PIT, I don't want it to keep bouncing around either.
I agree.
It's kind of like, you know, the PIT gets it and then they bounce it over here because it's financial. and then we're bouncing around.
Any one of these, we're not dealing with a whole bunch of money for any one application. And I mean, as it's set up, it's also implied that there'll be a lot, hopefully, so that might overwhelm us. If there was a lot. As it's set up here, but I don't think any single one is asking for a whole lot anyway. So,
I don't see us getting overwhelmed. Cause we haven't been so far. People are not really knocking down the door.
Like I say, I don't want it to keep bouncing around. If somebody comes with an application, brings it to Boz, and I mean, if he wants to work with, Betsy and Betsy feels it's fine. I have no problem with them too, just coming back to the committee and say, we approve these applications and then we're good to go. If there was a question about the application, I think both of you would say, you know, the application doesn't meet the standards of the program, correct, Boz?
And, I mean, my suggestion, I agree, I don't want it to be bouncing around from committee to committee, because if you have somebody interested and wants to get on something, I don't wanna delay them 2 months because we're bouncing it around, because we've seen that before. I would be okay with with what you said, Lon, and then if Boz would just send out an update to everybody, like, hey, this has come in, just FYI, that way we're not caught off guard either if somebody would ask us. Like, oh, I heard this person is applying for this. And then we stand there looking kind of foolish because we don't know, oh. So I think that's appropriate, but my concern with bouncing it from committee to committee would be how long it might take to make a decision on
Yeah.
something.
I wouldn't think bouncing it around would be appropriate. I think we decide where. If we decide it needs to be in front of committee, we decide, you know, PIT or FHR.
Do we make sorry, Lon, I'm just
Oh, Go ahead,
gonna.
go ahead.
Do we say anything below 20,000? It's on Boz, everything, if it's anything above 20, then we bring it back to a committee or we work together or something like that. Cause if it's something, what does it say down here?
Well, and they're
Next.
all gonna be below that part.
yeah, because those are the total.
That's the total, but I saw the 60,000 down here, like the max being available, 60,000.
Yeah.
If it's a bigger ticket or if it would be if we move some money to help accommodate,
Yeah.
they're looking for 30 instead of 20. I think that should be brought back to probably
What about
FHR.
if an inquiry came in and you just either chose a committee or the whole board shot it out, if anybody has any questions or thoughts on this, give you feedback or you and Betsy feedback, and we do it that way where we still would be completely understanding what is potentially developing, but still kept it a streamlined process.
I also just don't want us to run into a walking quorum where now all of a sudden we're replying back
Yeah.
and all that kind of.
Well, and we wouldn't
have
be
to be
able to do that. It would
Well,
be,
right, we have to be cognizant of that.
Yeah. I'm gonna just say that I think that, you know, we have an administrator, he can administrate this program. Let's, after looking at it and reading it, let's give him the power to administrate the program. And not come back to the board, either we okay this, or, you know, and move it forward to the board as a motion. The amendment here for the TIF development plan. And take it to the board and okay it and give him the permission to
move it ahead.
move it ahead. Or we don't okay it here and say, okay, we're not gonna approve this as a document. And, you know, I read the document. I don't have a problem with any of these. You know, any of these projects. I think, you know, if somebody comes in and wants to do the project. Okay, that's why we have a village administrator, he needs to do it.
Yeah, you're right.
Any other discussion or?
You're
thoughts on it?
right, but could we do that with, when it comes into you, boss, that you let us know what's going on? So again, when people are asking us,
Sure.
They just send the
think the only-
application form out
Chair, the
to
only,
us in
the
an
only
email?
correction I would ask, if you're gonna approve this, is, from what I'm hearing, change on page 2 at the top, quarterly presentations to FHR, monthly presentations to FHR.
Oh, that's a
I was
good
Every
actually-
month, I will bring you the
That's what I was
list
gonna
of
bring
everything
that.
that's approved, that was submitted and approved the past 30 days. Now, if you want a daily notice when it comes in, I can do that, but I think every 30-day window with you getting a dump of these are the 5 or 6 projects,
That's,
Yeah.
we can have a discussion. And
Yeah.
that'll,
where are you at on?
At the top,
Second page
at
at the
the
top.
very top.
it says quarterly presentations to FHR, we just amended to just say, monthly presentations.
And in a previous committee, I think we also talked about at a certain time, we can reallocate and earmark any of the money as we see
Yes.
if some are getting,
Yeah, I mean, when I get close to a cap, I'm gonna bring that to you all for request of allocation, reallocations.
Yeah, it sounds good to me.
Okay,
All right,
I would put a motion out there to, recommend the improvement of the draft, the sixth economic incentive draft with the change of monthly presentations to the FHR committee.
I'll approve it as amended.
Your motion?
I'll motion,
Your move?
I'll move.
Second,
Sorry.
okay, any other discussion on it? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All approved. Okay, number 9, discuss the village employee handbook, recommended updates.
so the FHR has not seen this for, I think, 2 years now. We've been working off of it. It's a living document the way I operate with it, so there's a lot of pending changes. It was probably due a refresh, especially with the new board in place. What you have in your packet, it's, not only includes, some red, ink. It also has some red ink notes that are latest and greatest, and also some of the pages that the lawyer gave me. So it's a working document. So what I was asking here is, send it to you. Any feedback, any comments? I do not see this going live until probably July, August timeframe. The reason being, I still have my departments reviewing it, chewing it up a little bit, giving me some feedback. I still have, once that's done, I send it to the lawyer for one final review. And then once, he is done with it, I'm good with it, then I will submit it with all the red ink in more official language, present it to you for, final approval. So it's really just a mid check to see if there's anything that you think we're missing, we're over addressing, under addressing. And I take it from there.
Any discussion? I have a little bit, I guess. I'm not sure about light duty. Do we have light duty for police officers or for public works? If somebody's injured, can they come back to work? And I guess,
Is this on a,
there's nothing on here.
Yeah,
Oh,
we-
okay.
And I don't know if we have light duty. I guess there was rumor that one employee was on light duty doing light things, and when I spoke to the supervisor, they said, well, that was created when a previous chief was here. I've never seen it in a document. And
That's a good thought.
Yes, not codified. Yes, you're right. We do have, department head discretion. When they need to put someone in a light duty status. And if it's impacting pay, if we actually put them on sick leave, that's a discussion I have with the department head, and me and Diane sit down and we put them in the right category. Definitely needs to be covered. So we will add that as a, it's a.
and I think we need to have that on for all employees.
Oh, sure. No, agreed. Yeah, yeah. It's across the departments. Yep.
And I didn't see it in the
Yep.
document.
Got it.
On page 12, I don't think we should have employees' names in there,
So
their pay rates.
yeah, so what we have here is a merging of our employee handbook with our labor policy. I'm trying to get one stop shop, but to that point, and Diane brought up, I'm gonna move all the numerics because they can change annually. I'm gonna bring those into an attachment at the end. So basically, where our labor policy has, has some language that is in the employee handbook, then it goes straight into that example there, how much they get paid. I'm gonna move all the how much they get paid stuff to an amendment, but leave all the language in the main document. So I agree with you, we still need it.
But can we do it without the names? I mean, that's, although it is publicly available,
Yeah,
it just really
no, I got
feels
you.
like an invasion.
Yeah, but if someone requested our labor policy, Diane, we would give it to them.
Well, but it would be laborer, operator, you know, with the amount, it wouldn't have to have who's in that position. I
Yeah,
mean,
but they can
somebody
ask,
could
what does Ray
find out.
Bossard make? And I have to tell them. So why do I need to hide it here?
I just think it's awkward for anyone to see their,
But it would make a little bit more sense if it was attached at the end.
Yeah.
together.
Cause that could change, I mean. these
I could
names
see
could
it by the
change.
position. I just don't, it's just
Understand.
uncomfortable having
yeah.
people's.
Yeah, I'll sit down with Diane, we'll see how we can do that.
With the motion, can you help me interpret your highlights again? I mean, if we do it as is, what does the highlights represent?
Highlights are just either a new section that wasn't really clarified in, I say previous to me, employee handbooks. So it's really, we're adding something that's kind of new, I'm vetting that language with the lawyers and so on. Like, we did not have a specific example here, page 12. We did not have a specific designation in hiring that we would give preference to either veterans or residents of the village. It was an
So,
assumption, but we didn't have it written.
so if approved, or if the motion's approved as presented, we're not making these changes, it stays highlighted until you,
Well, I'm not asking for a motion. We're not.
No,
doing
we're
a
just
motion.
reviewing this.
oh, wasn't there
Just
not?
a review, Caleb, just a review of, and it probably won't come until.
Oh, I'm sorry,
June
I
or
was looking at the
July.
motion above it, never mind.
Okay.
No, so those are just areas that are just a major change. That, no, there's not contentious, it's just, it's a major change. I'm just highlighting that we need to, get the right language in there, and it's more so for the lawyers. So.
Any other discussion on that?
Yeah, let me walk through it.
And I guess while you're thinking, Tara, the one thing that I would like to
You're
have.
making a broad assumption that I can listen and do.
No, it's going right to page 20 of longevity pay. That is something that we as a village need to really look at. There don't be an emotion here, but,
I see you have it highlighted.
yeah, that number has been how long, that number? So if we're worried about retention and retention based on, people staying with the village past, whatever it is, what's our calculation, 5 years? If we're worried about that, then I think we need to, rather than focus on giving them big bonuses and raising pay all the time, we have a more realistic longevity pay. That'll be a little drive in the back of their brain saying, well, if I hang out here longer, I get a little bit on pay. $1.75 a month. I mean, that's,
Well, I
I
guess
can't even get nothing at McDonald's for $1.75.
if the Dollar Tree can raise it,
Yeah.
they prices, I guess we can too.
How about we just, okay, so page 2,
I would
you just
agree,
added in 2023.
I would agree that the longevity should be, especially if an employee, because it kicks in after 5 years, correct, Diane? If an employee stays for 5 years, we should up that and maybe even do tiers of 5,
15.
10, 15, and bump it up higher and higher, because these are dedicated employees that are staying with the village.
Right now, how many of our full timers is that hit right now? At least,
Right now, it's just, me, Jim,
Mark,
Mark,
I mean,
Jay's the,
half
those
the
are
full
5 of
timers.
us right now, yeah.
So if we want to keep them plugging away, and I know they will be. It'd be nice to give them the appropriate retention and also the young guys hitting that 5 years. So don't need a decision, just keep that in your thoughts, and we can work on a recommendation of what level. But it's gonna be definitely more than $1.75, so.
Page 4,
Mhm.
the members of the board, elected village officials, commissions, committees, and judges. Especially the board and the judges. We don't belong under employee I think we need to leave that unhighlighted the way it was. Because we're elected, we're not accountable to the village, we're accountable to the residents.
You're right. The reason it's highlighted is that there's the first 10 pages.
That would give
Oh,
our
very-
secretary.
Actually, exactly 10 pages. Of, these are generic, proper etiquette, responsible behavior. And that's what it's meant, that everyone falls under that code. And if I need to specify that, I can specify that.
But there's no, I'm sorry,
no, but
there's no
Yeah.
accountability. There's no, if you don't, nothing happens.
Well, that's a good point. So we need to put in there.
But, I mean, so, I mean, and we're not employees. I mean, we're just simply not employees. We don't get any retirement. We,
Can I say, for elected officials, the Wisconsin Ethics Commission has
Yeah.
rules that they have to follow.
yeah,
Yeah.
and I think that's good.
And
I think we could create something as a board, and I think that would be helpful. But I would not support it being under the employee manual.
could we take that, not take it out, but then, approve it through the board as a separate document? And,
Well, I think, you know, without beating this to death, because it's not going into motion, but this is conversation, is, yeah, the elected officials, the judge, there's, like Diane said, there's a code of ethics. And if that has to be separate, we can have the code of ethics and sign that and be appropriate instead of the employee handbook, because we're not technically employees.
if I can, I agree. I would like to see this stuff taken out. And then having it maybe under the village board in our ordinance, like this is your code of conduct. And then maybe, and the same stuff, I'm fine with the stuff. And then maybe indicate that we are governed by the Wisconsin Ethics Committee, that's who we answer to. If we have questions, or if anybody has questions,
Like,
we can go to that, because from my understanding, Mike, and how I'm reading this is because let's say one of us messes up and we follow, who enforces that? Boss?
yeah,
I think us as a village board
Enforces it.
would enforce it with each other. So I feel like that needs to be taken out and maybe put under the ordinances. This is our code of conduct for elected officials.
I think there's probably a code of conduct that we could even take verbatim.
Doesn't the state
Yeah,
enforce that? I mean, you know, someone.
Well,
If you do something.
I mean, if it really
complaint,
raises
and then
that
the DA's
occasion.
office would get a complaint,
Yeah.
and then the
Right.
DA would take it
if
from
it was
there.
illegal.
Right.
I got you. We actually have, in, chapter 2 of our ordinances, we do have a section on, code of conduct ethics. We need that to be, that's a pit thing, so you guys can just tell me to move that to pit and I'll just
Let's
sling it
move
back
that
at
to
them.
Yeah.
Let's move that to pit.
Let them slug it out.
Yeah,
Yeah,
let's move that
I
to
don't
pit.
know.
got it.
Okay,
Where's the next page where?
Oh, what did you want us to look at with mileage? You had that whole section.
No, we've sorted that. Don't need you to look at anything. That's highlighted because we are working that
Okay,
internally with how we, clear that up amongst the departments.
Unless I've missed anything, we're on page 11 is the next one.
Where-
The limited time employee.
Mhm.
Oh, I'm on 11.
Does this need to be said? Because isn't it already, that's the way it is, this include?
How do you consider our firefighters, Diane? What do you consider them as employment category?
Volunteer firefighters.
They need to be there.
Oh,
So according to our lawyer, we need to put everyone in the right employment category. There are some stipulations that come with that, because if you start hitting some gates, I had a discussion with one of the trustees, if you start hitting some gates of how many hours, then some state, employment rules kick in. So we gotta be cognizant of that, but we do not, unless we want to create a volunteer category, which we could, because we do have volunteers that's on our commissions and boards. We don't have a category, they kind of fall limbo. So that's why it's pointed there. Now, what I'm taking out is, per our previous discussion, is elected and appointed members. Again, Nick's feedback was, if we're giving them a paycheck, you could consider them a limited time employee in some capacity, even if they're elected. That was Nick's interpretation. I hear what you're saying. I think we can cover that in ordinances better, so we took that language out. I think we need to give, for clear guidance to our entire staff, to include our fire department. We have part-time police officers. They understand they're part-time police officers. It's a no-brainer. I got the chief right back there. What do you consider yourself as, if you don't mind me going off, David?
Yeah, go on.
What do you,
Go ahead.
what employment category do you consider yourself in?
I really
For the
don't have a
village.
label for myself.
Well,
I was always considered.
I'm not asking you to self-identify or anything, just what, what- what employment category?
Please, let's call you they.
It's just, I mean, I'm putting you on the spot. Just-
Part-time.
Okay, so we have a communication problem of understanding clearly the entire village staff.
Okay,
So that's the recommendation by our lawyer, saying, put them in a category or create another category. And that's why I say this is still we're still working out some kinks here.
I'm fine with that.
That's why I
Forward.
I am
And I
fine
think
with
it's in
that.
there intentionally worded like
Yeah.
that too.
Yeah.
Can I say, like for our health insurance and stuff, we are considered under 50 employees. They don't want to do something to make us considered a large.
You're exactly
You
right.
know,
Another reason
large
why,
employer.
okay,
Anything else?
Page 12,
all right.
no fringe benefits unless specified and designated. What, is that your your fund? Is that what you're referencing?
Give me an example. We,
Well, the seasonal.
This is
summer help,
seasonal.
That's part of a boot, you know,
yeah,
less
we
than
give,
boot
we give
allowance.
boot allowances to our
Yeah.
seasonal helpers that come on board, so, but it's written in their contract. So right now, if you're not full or part-time, it's very specified, we give you no fringe benefits, but we do have the ability to give them something, and that gives us the cover to do that.
So then number 5, we already discussed that. I'm fine with that, or that sounds good to me.
Eighteen is the next highlight. That's just the contribute, what the village contributes.
yeah, I
I
don't-
don't think that that's anything to, I think that's at a budget time type of,
Sure.
I mean. Again, if we want to retain the good employees and we want to keep our employees. You know, I think that they have we provide them a good health insurance or. And I guess that's a budget time item.
But that's not changing anything, right?
No,
No,
that's, again, this is my crib notes of, I gotta look at certain things, so it just highlights it to me that that's part of the employment package.
So that, and that's just with the new numbers added in, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Stuff in red, it's 2023 numbers.
So 19, what's up with the
That's the
vision?
same thing, just new information on the delta. We don't pay it. It's up to the individual. We gotta put a number in there, that's all.
So on page 20, that's your suggestion for the longevity?
No, that's current. We just need to address it. We owe you something more on that.
Are you gonna give us recommendations?
Yeah, I'll sit down with Diane. We'll figure out what makes sense. Travel is nothing, it's internal.
Are we, sorry, are we governed by like the state on how like travel mileage
No, we use the federal
or
mileage.
the
We
federally?
keep that the same, yeah.
For 20, on page 22, that's what you've already been doing, right? You're just.
Yeah, I'm just clarifying what fund that comes from, and this is between, how me and Diane, she needs to know what bucket, or are we gonna create a separate budget line item, or it's within my administrator's expenses budget, and right now it's coming out of that bucket. We have some clarification language, more so from the lawyer, that comment under, alcohol on a village premises by village
What page are you
employees.
on?
22, that's my little red notes there. So, we'll clean up that language because
32.
we do give exceptions.
22?
22,
Is that
no,
32?
22, number 1.
We don't have it ready.
No, sorry, yeah, that's continued, that is for my lawyer. So just under, we do some exception to policies when it comes to allowing our firefighters as well as other staff that attend either street dance, brat fries or whatnot. So there's some language problems there that the lawyer is gonna give you some better language on. That's all.
So are you saying that there's no alcohol in the village unless there's an event?
Well, this is an employee handbook dealing with the employees, not the location.
Right, but I'm saying that because it says drug-free and alcohol-free workplace. Village of Port Edwards,
Mhm.
Wisconsin will maintain a drug-free, alcohol-free workplace.
Yes,
So you're saying the exception when it is allowed is if there's an event?
that's exactly the lawyer's comment. We need to cover, when do we allow it? Is that an employee picnic at the shelter? We allow it. Employees are on duty, they can drink. We don't specify that, so we need an out.
Page 23 on the. And we hadn't discussed this before, but in the employee manual, there should be some reference to the Police and Fire Commission for. Police and fire for employment, reemployment, discipline, suspension.
Okay, yep. PSC, got it.
Anybody on the next page?
I'm
No
trying
idea
to-
which next.
I'm trying
page
to
you're on.
read and.
Yeah, and it's pretty much a rough draft and we're just a review.
Mhm.
I mean, I say, just look it over. If you have specific, you can send me an email and I'll inject it into the next version that you guys see, but I don't see you guys getting it based on the lawyer comments till probably July's meeting, will be as soon as you guys will get it back for review, so.
Okay.
So the next, I'm sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
On page 30,
Mhm.
what's your goal there?
No, I'm just confirming that, with our chief, we had our discussion, so I'm just highlighting it to me that meets state, requirements and, oversight with our lawyer's intent, so. So we can allow weapons on premises, as long as it's, approved. And the way I look at approval, it's not just one person, it's a joint effort by our senior law enforcement also officer with the administrator, full acknowledgement, and we don't have a problem with it as long as we're all aware of it. If that's a guy working in public works that, because of the openness of that area, if they need to, if there's a request to have a weapon on scene, it'd be me and him making that determination, if that's allowed on village property.
And it'd be, if a employee wants to have a carry and conceal,
Mhm.
and instead of just coming into work and carrying it, it should probably be
Yeah,
something.
it's
to
just
look at.
awareness of it. It's not really restricting it. It's just awareness of it.
Yeah, I think it's listed in what's below.
Yeah, the comment came up of what does the in vehicles, what does secured mean? I'm having chief do some research on that to figure out what's acceptable language of the secured. The sheriff's department uses some language, so for a minute, it's gonna import their language into this document, if it makes sense.
Page 32, the alcohol on village property. I didn't understand why you popped that in.
Well, it's just a note to me because, it's addressed, but I wanna make sure we're not getting too into weeds of on village property in my employee handbook, that's all. That if it's a discussion, needs to be moved to an ordinance somewhere, so.
Yeah.
That's all.
Well, it's just kind of random in the
Yeah, I
middle.
think that
It was his,
Yeah,
it was his notes.
You got my crib notes here, that's what I'm saying, it's a living document.
Yeah, I think if anyone, any trustee or anybody wants to, you know, like, Boz said, we can send them an email saying concerns if we see something later
Yeah,
on. in
yeah,
this.
yeah.
That's it. Okay, with that,
Before we
Oh.
proceed, how do you guys feel? I'm just wondering about the employees' names in there. Am I the only one that thinks that's rather,
I think the way I feel is it's been done like that for years, and
okay,
if any one of the village residents at any time, or anyone wants to come in from Wisconsin Rapids or wherever and say how much money is Lonraki making, we have to give them that information.
Mhm.
And so I think it's very transparent, and looking at those wages, I think that I'm not, I'm willing to share that with people, because I think we do well with our employees, so.
I was just thinking of it strictly from their perspective, even though, but if you guys, if I'm the only one,
I do like it, like on the back, like this.
Maybe in the way
more
back,
than
but-
in here, just cause
Sure.
this could change.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, we'll do that, we're
Throughout the
definitely gonna do
year.
that.
Anything else?
are the like poll workers, 154 a day, 182 a day, CEI, what's that?
Chief election inspector.
Okay, and is that what you're suggesting, that those wages get raised? Is that?
I think we raised them.
Yeah,
last
we
year.
raised-
No, they're all new numbers from
They're
twenty
new.
twenty-three, that's all, that's what I say, this is 2022 carrying over. So, in that case, all that red is just the new number. The only, specific that we haven't initiated yet, because I think I'm still waiting on chief and the officers to give me the go, is, this potential giving a stipend to our captains, lieutenants, and assistant chiefs. But I think we're gonna push that to budget time. So we have a stipend for chief, but there's been a good initiative of, trying to empower our officers. And there was a way to do that, with using these amounts, so that's why that's highlighted, we haven't executed that yet.
On the EMS pay, I did have a conversation with a Rapids employee today. And he did talk about the value of, even if a first responder comes like even right before they come, that you just never know like you had kind of referenced, Jason, like you never know the circumstance. So they rely on the EMS for, again, just, you don't know what the circumstance might be, and he said at least two. And now that, I'm not talking about the, I didn't speak to, the chief or anything, I'm just talking about a person that is in the process, and so it almost made me think, if we considered eliminating, if we got so pinched that we had to consider eliminating them, we may end up having to pay for some kind of more coverage somewhere else.
Well, yeah, like that might be, I mean, I don't know if we're talking that right here, I think this is just the
Well,
employee.
I was just,
I don't think, yeah, but
right,
I
because
mean,
he
that
had
we
the
talked
note in
about it,
there.
right, yeah.
so, and we were discussing it last night, so I'm just kind
Oh,
of
okay,
circling.
Above that, help me, because actually you're on one line, I was right above it. What is the 154 quarter? What's, since they're
150.
on the EMS? What does that mean that what's the quarterly? Fresh permit EMS.
Right here. Under SCBA, EMS.
Can somebody get us on the same page?
Oh, we have a lead EMS officer that's in charge of all your EMS section, right? So he gets a quarterly stipend.
Okay,
Oh, let's cut it.
That's,
So that's who
could
that
you,
is.
Okay.
could you put in
Well-
lead, could you clarify, cause.
Okay,
Yeah,
yeah, I
lead,
can do that for all
whatever
these
that is,
positions here, yep.
lead, whatever.
Just kidding.
And I don't think that that's anywhere that we're talking in this committee about,
Right,
um,
and I
The- the
only said that
program or
because his
anything.
note was there, and,
okay.
and sorry, you're out of the loop on that conversation.
All right, good to go.
Okay. And like I say, if you have any other suggestions, I think that,
13,
send them to Boz. Okay, review the standing contract for the use of village property for nonprofits.
So you have in your packet, this was discussed at Pitt. You should have a pullout that's separate, that when Pitt adjusted or recommended a few things. That's the latest and greatest, the separate document, not the one in your packet. The original is in your packet. The biggest concern, feedback from Pitt, since you all haven't seen their minutes, was there was one trustee that was concerned about the optic of charging our athletic association that on the same level as in that letter, we're not charging two other organizations. That was one trustee's comments. But other than that, there was just move it to you guys, since this is a financial decision, if you want to move it even forward further, or just gonna go back to Pitt and this committee at the next month. So the addition also was on the same venue of identifying the two main nonprofits that utilize village space, Lions and baseball. We added the athletic association because we have a partnership with them. They utilize space after the meetings at our fire department. And to make sure that's all clear and clearly outlined, I brought them into it, identifying how much they contribute to the village over the years, how much, what they do for the fire department as well as the community. And the recommended, that's the utilization of that space once a month. There is no, this is again my recommendation, there is no fee assigned to that, using the same logic that we do for the Lions and the baseball folks. They contribute holistically to the village in other ways that, again, this has never been about money. It's just making sure we have clear lines between all our organizations. So that's the difference from what was submitted to Pitt and what you guys are looking at, adding that section. And I didn't change anything with the recommendation for the, well, this is just, you guys are just looking at the use of village property one, right?
I'm looking at the one that this is a separate one here.
Yes, yeah,
agreement to use village.
just those three
So,
entities that use village property.
So the three entities basically would be just kind of a zero for a cost of the associations, but it's kind of a donation gift type
Yes.
payback.
We're identifying that we are utilizing taxpayer funded buildings. There's a cost to do that, but we as a village are waiving that cost as a gift in kind for the goodness that those organizations do. So for paperwork for us, for accountability of taxpayer money, we have a document that says why. For accountability on their end as nonprofits, they have a document that says they've received a gift in kind for utilization of meeting space, and they can use that for whatever needs they used it with their accounting folks. So it's really just, it clearly makes it us both legal on both sides.
I'm totally fine with that.
Mhm.
And just to be clear, like, these are the ones, the reason why we've picked these ones is because they're part of the village, they work in the village, or they give back to the village, shouldn't say work, give back to our village, so if another nonprofit would come in, would we do the same rules for them, or would we have them fill out an application?
Well, these are recurring. These aren't their one-day rentals. We do that separately with a separate contract. These are the only three entities that we
Continually.
continuously, monthly have an agreement with. Peppo, the parents organization, wanted to rent this space, but then they were better at the school meetings. So I would have gave them the same agreement that they could use the space for their meetings. They chose not to. But if another group said they wanted to do a recurring rental, I would add it to that list, you guys would look at it, and we would have an agreement with that.
I don't see I mean, it's confusing to me. And we wouldn't be renting that space anyway, why we would,
Sure. The
I mean, because nobody else can rent.
fire departments, yeah,
We're not charging.
right.
I know, but I don't understand why we need the document at all, because it doesn't necessarily separate anything, it's just,
And we do need to document because we're giving use of government sponsored taxpayer funded property to 3 nonprofits and we're not charging them.
Yeah.
So,
Just
it-
for-
yeah,
It kind of clears, it clears us.
Yeah.
It's more of a housekeeping.
If somebody would sue, it clears us of that
well,
obligation.
I guess I mean, even attaching the money to it at all, since nobody else can rent it, that's my,
you have to have, this was from our auditor, we have to have a numerical number of the value assigned to that use.
Okay.
So that number was a calculation of combination of what we do for a shelter, the size, the use of a kitchen, that number came from that. For
Oh,
the
the-
amount of meetings they have.
okay, so if you have to attach the number, these aren't the same numbers as we had the other night?
Well, I mean, you didn't have the Lions rent a shelter
No,
once
I
a
mean,
month,
for the association. I mean,
association. This is for their meetings, monthly meetings. We had last night their request to do a street dance and a
Oh,
brat
so they're
ride.
different.
It's not, we're not talking that. This is the recurring meetings document.
I see. what you're saying.
I'm looking at, maybe not the same thing you guys are, the street dance.
No, I'm not looking at that.
Oh. we were
We're all
the
looking at
other
something
one.
else.
We were looking at the other one.
Yeah, so,
This has been
Oh.
a separate
yeah,
document.
the separate
been amended.
document,
Oh, I got it, I got
yeah, so that one's just identifying the 3 nonprofits we deal with.
it, okay.
And in that case, there's a numerical assigned to it, and we have gifted in kind. So are we good on that one?
Oh, I see, it is, I'm sorry about that.
And that's the new
Yeah.
one as of,
Let's say the date on the top is the May 2nd.
Yeah, this is a 2 May 1, this was changes from the pit committee, recommended changes from the pit committee.
Okay, so. Since we're cheap on staples and Buzz can't do that. So on the one on the top, so we have 3 different memos regarding this, right? So the one that says standing agreement with organizations and village property. And then number 2, it says all standing of the rules in the village for public spaces, no smoking, no alcohol. That's not the rules for. I mean, we rent the Lions and people just have alcohol.
You're right. But right now, unless they come to us with an exception, a request of an exception, we have to state the current ordinances and rules that we have to enforce, or there's an exception. So this is the start point. This is us agreeing that we will give them the space under these guys. If any one of these organizations say, if the Lions, I've never been to a Lions meeting. I don't know if they drink there during their meetings. I don't know. If they are asking to, they would come to me. I would do an amendment to this and say, you're allowed alcohol on site. I don't have a problem with it.
So, and I'm not debating that,
Yep.
but I'm just saying, on this document, it says standing rules of the village as if it's already in place. And,
Yes.
because it's not, is it? Am I?
them rules are in place. There's no smoking in a public building.
Yeah.
Or no alcohol,
But you rent
but we rented out to the shelter and then
and
The
then you fill it
shelter-
with booze.
I don't know, there were agreements between the shelter and the public and a private person that, Betsy, maybe you know the rules on,
Well,
I mean, no, I'm thinking if you rent the building at Edwards Alexander, let's say it's for a graduation party, is there a rule saying you can't have?
that's
alcohol?
what I'm,
That's,
yeah, that's what
okay,
I'm
that was my
saying.
question.
That's what I was confused about because I didn't
Okay, so the
realize,
language of the no standing rules and highlighting those things, a good point. I mean, I could highlight the exact language in our ordinances that says what they can and can't do.
right? I
That's
mean,
fine.
and I'm not trying to be difficult.
No,
I just,
no.
I didn't know if every time we rented it, we were rebels.
Yeah, no problem. No
I
problem.
haven't rented anything, so I don't know.
Okay, so
Graduation
number
party
2, I will,
talked about.
tweak. I will change the language on number 2 for this product. Anything else on this product?
Second of May one, we're still talking about the same one.
Yeah, the 2 May 1 that says the 3 organizations. Okay,
No, I don't have anything else.
all right.
Anybody else have anything else on that?
Do you have, and so do you have a discussion on the other product here?
The
The street
17.
dance one, the brat fry one, that was where I was making a comment that
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
looking at that one, yeah.
the pit committee recommended.
I was on, but anyway,
So on that one, the only change, it's not change, I didn't change the document. Pit committee, one trustee had a concern that the fee for the street dance should be waived because of the goodness that the street dance brings as a community event. That was the only main comment made by a trustee, probably close to 2 trustees made that comment. No other, you guys are on Pit, you can speak to Pit, I'm just highlighting the one thing that stuck in my mind that they wanted to bring to you guys' attention for your review of the street dance brought by.
Okay, so as of now, this is the document for the brat fry.
Yes.
Street dance.
Yeah, so at the last board meeting, we approved the days, we approved the
Yeah.
events, no issues there. Based on that, I wanted to give the athletic association a clear understanding of that there's either gonna be a charge, not gonna be charged, whatever. And, that was this document here, and the only feedback from Pitt, looking at that document, was, kind of like the brat fry. Just call it a gift in kind and call it a day. That was their feedback.
Any discussion on that? Caleb, any discussion? So the way that it would go now is that there would be a $250 charge for the street dance to the association.
Yeah.
For the fire department.
and you determine that to be a 1-day use.
The way I did the mathematics on that, I'll say, is that the street dance consumes a Friday, Saturday, and into a Sunday for cleanup. So I looked at it as 4 periods of time. And then period of time is like the shelter use is my comparable. We have a cost, we just used the historical cost for a day's worth of utilities for those events, for that building. We used that, and that came up to a cost of, per a period of time, $250. I waived 3 days, 3 time periods, saying that that's a community event, no issue there. But there is a cost to the village for shutting down that building for that amount of time. My recommendation was a $250 flat fee for the entirety of the street dance. That's the discussion we had at Pitt, and the optic of charging the athletic association anything was a concern to a couple of trustees. That's where we stand.
Any discussion? You know, my comment on it is things have changed throughout the years. I utilized the fire department and their members for a bike rodeo, and without using those members, I would not had the personnel to conduct those bike rodeos. Those bike rodeos were very important. Years ago, a small gal got killed here at the intersection of Second and Latender Avenue. And we had them in the school for a long time. Chief Zerflu actually ran them. And then after that, we didn't have them for a long time. And then this girl ended up, it was a tragic accident. So we started doing it again, and we had a very successful program, and without utilizing the members, it probably wouldn't have been as successful. I know that the things have changed, and there's things that we have to look at as far as, you know, a lot of things have changed. The village gets a big cost from buying and purchasing equipment for every department, fire, police, public works. Years ago, when the mill was thriving, the first police car here in the village was donated by Nakusa Edwards Paper. they bought our fire trucks. I think some of us can remember, maybe not, but they did that. So I guess my main concern with the association, and I know that they paid dues for this association, they had programs. I had a program at the school where we, as a SRO, we raised money, we sold overpriced candles. Maybe some of you might have bought some of them, or overpriced bread. But I was upfront with everybody that I sold it to, is this is going back to the community. We purchased a bench over by the school. We bought you walk the path, we purchased for the village and donated this stuff back to the village. And Dell probably wasn't happy about putting things up, but you know, for your dog to put your dog doo-doo in, and we donated a number of things back to the parks for the village. My thing would be is I have no problem with their association, but they should be just when they do have their brat fries and the dance, just let the people know that this is what we're using our association money for. I don't care what your money is. I don't care if it's $100,000 in your association, or that's not, I could care less. But I think the public needs to know, hey, we're raising this money, we're doing it on village property. If you guys are raising it to go tubing down the Apple River, good, whatever you want to raise it for. I personally, I think the 250, I can understand the electricity cost and everything else. I'm hoping that the association will continue to donate back to the village in equipment and fire things that are for our community. I think that everybody that's on the fire department has, or any employee has, the community's best interest in mind. I would say the 250 is something that we should waive. And I would hope that the money that's raised at these events would be just like the Lions Club or the Baseball Association. The Baseball Association put up batting cages. The Lion Club builds nice things for our parks. I would hope that they continue to do that in the best interest of our community. So my recommendation is we just waive the 250 at this point in time.
I'm glad that you said that, because I think I was right on the fence, and I think I really kind of felt the same way. But even before you said what you said before, I think I had the same idea, is maybe having it stated in here. And the language that I would have put is that part of this contract is that they have publicly posted, and I use the language that the association is not associated with the fire department or something, at every location where they have donations, so that it's clear to make that. And I think that's a level of at least separation, according to the village attorney. I mean, I think is that not kind of what you were saying with the separation, but and like not just, you were saying it verbally, like I would probably have it in print somewhere, publicly posted.
What they're raising the funds for.
Well, not even just in that, but just a declaration that it's not associated. And I don't know what the exact word would be if it's not associated. I don't know what the official word should be, but just it's a public declaration that we're separate.
Yeah, and I would agree with you, just differentiating the difference between the two entities. This is a street dance that is put on by the Athletic Association that helps support the fire department. But just making sure that, because I've had numerous phone calls about like, well, what do you mean the street dance doesn't go to fund the fire department? That's been the confusion as of late, is that the street dance was going to fund the fire department, not support. I think that needs to be very clear. And I do think an announcement, I mean, I can't tell you guys what to do, but I think just I agree with that. There's gotta be the distinct separation. The $250 to me,
Irrelevant.
yeah, because that's not the point. But it has to be just acknowledged that there's a separation between the two entities, and that, you know, we recognize as a village that it costs money to put this on, and we're okay with that.
Yeah.
I didn't realize when you asked about questions, I didn't realize we were having this conversation. I think backing up, as a full board, we need to have a meeting, like, how do we want the separation at the strategic, or was it after the reorg meeting, when we had the meeting, there was some options floated. I think we need to, as a complete body, decide how do we want to proceed? How would we want this to look? What are the pros and cons of different things? Like you said, the Lions Club and PIBA, what they're raising is staying right here, and they're disclosing and sharing. That's, I think, where part of the uncomfortableness comes from. And like Betsy was saying, the confusion where there are people that think that we're not potentially supporting this fundraising that helps sustain the fire department, which that's not the case. So I think it's about a communication, I think part of the conversation that we need to have needs to be about what the expectation is for information that's shared, level of transparency, giving, you know, when we're coming to the table and saying, you can do all this, allowing us to also be invested in, you know, look at what they're doing. They raised this much money, they plan, you know, they have these goals. And if the goal is float down the river, that is not, to me, like, you know, it's a stressful circumstance. I think, you know, having if you raise the money, you do all this fundraising and say, this money is being raised to, you know, our these public safety officers, the firemen, the EMS, they go through a lot, they deal with a lot, there's some things that we could do to make life easier. I think our community is fine with that. And I could support that, but I think we need to have an understanding of what is happening, be able to be a part of the circumstance of celebrating it, helping them promote it, but not having, like, on flyers and stuff, not saying for the fire department, not saying things like that, say for the athletic association. And then that separates us from when people are saying, well, what do they do with that? That more takes us off the hook. There needs to be that clear distinction.
And I don't disagree with that, and, you know, it's kind of like, again, when I had the organization, and it was a nonprofit at the high school, and the high school set up that if people wanted to spend the $10 on the overpriced candle or bread, that was up to them, because they knew this is the projects that I was going to go and do. If one of my projects was to take everybody and get ice cream and go tubing, then I would have said, this is why we're selling the ice cream or the bread and the candle. And I don't have an issue with that. I guess I want our community to realize when they come, what they're supporting, and if they want to spend their money on that, to support what they're supporting. And I feel that they're supporting us. I would hope that with buying equipment and things like that, then I have no problem with, again, waiving the $250. And I guess I was just gonna go off the table to ask the fire chief, you know, do you understand where I'm coming from as far as the rest of us are coming from at this committee is? Do you have a problem with that? Just at least the money is coming from, or gonna be used for? Like I said, I don't care what kind of money you guys have in your association. I think that the money has been in the past to support equipment and things like that, or even, I mean, I'd have to look way back. I mean, I know that they purchased different things and donated it back to the village, and that's the purpose of your organization, correct?
Mhm. I'm not really the official spokesperson for the association. I'm just a member, but
Okay.
I can answer your question. And I have a couple of questions of my own. Like when you did fundraising, did you specifically say that you were going to raise money for the dog waste collection baskets, or were you a little more vague than that?
I said it was all for the community, and it was either going to go back to the community or go back to scholarships for kids for future law enforcement program. And all the money went to either scholarships to seniors or went to that stuff.
Okay, I think that's one of our hangups if we specifically pick a project, like, one of the things that got brought up recently was, oh, we need a different boat. Ours is too small, it's unstable, it doesn't plane out nice. It was gonna be a big project, that individual's checking on pricing. And then that individual retired and the project kind of died with him. So had we said we were raising money for a boat, it's my understanding that we would be locked into that now. Whether we wanted a boat now at this point or not, we would be locked into moving forward with that project, even if something
Well, that,
new and shiny came up over here, we had to focus.
that's up
on
to your
boat.
association and what you guys vote on is your association.
And how
So,
it relates, you have to follow through on the mission statement. So,
yeah. I guess I'm not gonna get into a lot of questions and answers. I mean, and I will, if you guys want a board member or something like that to come to one of your meetings, I'll definitely be able to come to one of your meetings, or somebody else could come. It would be up to the village president to send somebody as a spokesman, maybe to clear that up. I guess at this point in time, the only thing is I'm making a motion that we waive the $250 for the dance.
don't even think we need a
do
motion.
we-
Don't even know, these are contracts that I am charged to execute. I just wanted full visibility for you guys to have a discussion, so.
But I
I'm
would like,
fine.
I would like the addition of something that has to do, and I would
do have it
rather
there.
it be
It's in
written.
there,
Page
yeah,
2.
it's in there.
Firefighter Athletic Association needs to be ensured that the advertising and marketing of this event is clearly separated in description and fundraising from the village. The village will wholeheartedly support the event, but all efforts need to ensure that those individuals / businesses donating funds understand that donations are going to the athletic association nonprofit, not the village fire department. Any post-event donation of funds that could come from the association at a later date, totally separate.
Mhm.
So
Oh, okay.
that's just stipulated part of this contract. So as we show up at the firemen's dance and we see, something, a flyer that says, hey, support your whatever, then we have an issue. We'll have a discussion with the athletic association, not the chief, the athletic association. So, I think that added statement in there clarifies
Okay,
the
yeah.
contract. So,
Yeah.
so I will adjust that. That's not a problem.
Okay, I'm just at this point in time, with other, we're not gonna take any other comments. We're just gonna waive the $250 fee. And move on. If we need to go. to anything else, we'll come to the meetings, okay?
Sounds good.
Old business, anything old business?
You have a note, an update email from the Ripple Creek Apartment folks. There was a concern about if the village divests ourselves of that property based on the offer they gave us, and I think.
I watched
gave
the
you-
meeting and I.
So they gave us about $2,200 per parcel.
I seen that, yeah.
So,
I'm fine with it.
The only question we had at the pit meeting was, if we divested ourselves, could they evict a bunch of folks? And they're not, they can't,
Well, it wasn't, can they evict? It was,
they can't raise the rents. That,
well, but it kind of, from what I read in the email, it sounded like they can, but they wouldn't.
well, if you look at the spreadsheets at the back, there's a max rent that's already set right now.
Right,
that
that's just higher than
continues.
what they're paying.
No, that's the max. Look at what they're paying, the previous, So you have a column, if I'm looking at the first one, you have a column that says max rent to the far right. I'm looking at one that says $841, $841, so on. That's set by the Title 42 rules that they are part of, with us in charge of them or not. That's still standard. That's the max. That's based on federal guidance as well as the market values in the area. So that's the max. If you look to the left of that, the rent amount that they are charging now, it's market rates, is in that first example, $595. So yes, could they go up to 841? They could. But the problem they're having when you have people qualifying for these type of apartments, it's based on their income. There's a cap that's set, and that's what it is. They would have to find a pretty robust individual coming in there to make that max rent capacity. Does that help? Because they could charge 841 today.
Yeah, I understand that they're saying that. But in our rental market,
Mhm.
a place is, it doesn't have to be much and you can get a higher rent, then I'm just afraid we would be pinching low-income people right out of our community as those apartments turn over.
Yeah.
Because rental
I hear
rates
you.
are,
And that
very
might not be a bad thing. I'm, I spent a
there's
lot of
some
times
parts of it
at,
that's true,
you
but
know, and
when you look at the village as a whole, I don't know.
Oh, and I asked her an example, if I walked in there, I'm making $100,000 a year, I walked in there to rent something for $841. I would not qualify because I make too much,
So there's a process.
so I'd be bumped out.
they still wouldn't be
This is
able to-
really addressing the people that are making in less than the $40,000-$50,000 range, and then they set that cap. So there is a Title 42 process that irregardless of we're involved or not, they have to follow. Otherwise, they would have to send a lot of money back to the federal government, and they don't want to do that.
I think we could potentially benefit from having Nick offer us some historical context and understanding on all the pieces of it.
Okay, Nick has looked at this and he's in support of the sales. I can set up a meeting to bring him, as well as these people, they're in Madison, I can bring them online. And if you wanna have a chat about it, so.
I think we need to move on this and sell
But there's no, I mean, we don't have to do it tonight.
it. No,
I
no,
mean, I think just make sure we have all the
if the
information.
board
Yeah.
approves. And I do understand your concern here of it, but I can see where, so like Boz says, if I'm making $100,000 and I try to go in and rent them apartments, I'm not gonna be able to get an apartment, because they're gonna say I make too much. So they have federal guidelines that they'll say, okay, this person needs to make $30,000 or $40,000, they can still rent it. So they're not, it's not really, I hate to use the thing low income. It's just that the income has to be, where we're a level of comfort where we might get better renters that will care more for the property and value, you know, the apartments more and the
Mhm.
community more. And
I
I guess that's the
understand.
nicest way I can
But
put it.
I would like to also be able to offer housing options to like people working at the restaurant or, you know, I think there's
And I
a
think that
place
they
for
would
everybody.
yeah, and I think that they definitely would qualify.
And there is a difference, I think, between low income housing and income based housing too. But there is it two different definitions?
I don't know.
Mhm.
Yeah, it is, yeah, yes, so. Do you want Nick and this company at the next, you want to kick this 30 days and have them at the next meeting? Or you want them I'll try to get them at the board meeting, I don't know if I can make it happen by Tuesday, they may be able to dial in, but it's after hours for them, so
Those presidents?
it's up to you guys.
I think if Nick has looked at it and he's okay with it and how it looks legal wise, I think I'm,
And
I'm
I
okay
can
with
send
it.
that email traffic that I had, if you need the comfort of, don't trust them.
If, that's not true. Although,
maybe send it.
Yes, I can send it, I will send it
yeah,
anyway,
do
yeah.
you want to have this conversation at the table? We're being recorded. Yeah, whatever.
I can send it.
No, and I understand your concerns, and I think that they're valid concerns, but I still think that the people in that lower income will be able to afford them. And I guess you want to just make sure that they are gonna be able to afford them, correct?
Well, and I'm not even necessarily saying everybody. I mean, you could have a single teacher with a couple of kids. And the going rate of some of these places would have her out of business. It's not,
You know, almost every place now with rent, yeah.
then that's the point right there.
But they can't go past the caps that she has in this document. That's what I'm trying to say, is
There's,
that column to the right,
They
that's
can't.
the caps today, that's the caps 10 years from now if we're not involved.
So, and I
That's
guess
set.
I need more understanding, and that would be,
Okay.
what did you call that section, what?
42. Yeah, and section 42 is federal housing. But that is the cap, that irregardless of we're involved or not,
And who ends up setting that? Is that,
that's the feds working with Title 42.
okay,
Because they do a market analysis of Port Edwards, they do mean values, they do income and market share.
so it raises, but probably based on a
Yeah, I mean, I think she says in here, it may go up, 4, 5, 6% annually, and that's how it is. But she's restricted by that column to the right.
I'm just, without having a legal document that says that, I mean, the people on the other end of the building said, lend me this money and I'll pay it back, and you know how that's going. So I don't
I got you.
particularly
I got
want to take her word for it when her company benefits from it.
Yep, I got you.
Yeah.
I will,
How about
if I have something at the board
Okay.
meeting, I can bring it up at the board meeting, an update, either from Nick or something.
Okay.
If we have to push it 30 days, we'll push it 30 days.
You
Okay,
know, what is
hopefully,
section 42? How does that really regulate? Because I mean, the housing market is tough right now. You don't have to be,
well, you have to provide, okay, I know somebody that's renting right now, and they have to provide, they actually asked if I would be quote, reference. And I
okay, one
said
of your
yes.
kids, tell us about it.
Well, yeah, and they don't make much. And so they have to provide the apartment complex, a month's worth of payroll stubs saying how much they're making. And then they need to have the reference calls, and the reference calls call, and they actually call me saying that they're employed. And then they base that rent on the amount of money that the payroll stubs were provided.
Is that under
That's-
section 42?
That's
Mhm.
where they got the,
Mhm.
that's how they can afford to be in them apartments.
That's how that column of what they're paying, if you see it back to the left even further, is the income level reported. So they calculate what their income level, what they're gonna pay,
Mhm,
but there is a Title 42 rule based on
Yeah.
the market that sets the cap,
mhm.
so.
If it's that way, I just
I
need
got
to
you. Sure,
understand
yeah.
section
I think
42
that's-
for myself before we
No worries.
proceed. Because again, we've got how much money that we've lost down the block.
Yeah,
No worries.
okay. Any new business that we
That's
need
it.
to be discussed?
No.
Any correspondence?
For new business, can we just make sure that the employee handbook is back on there, just so that,
There won't be
discuss it.
major changes. I mean, if you wanna discuss it, we can.
I mean, if we would all of a sudden come back with something.
Oh, okay. No, that's
I mean,
fine. Yeah,
Yeah.
Email them before then, if
Final
it's something,
draft.
but just.
yeah. I just hate killing a tree every time for your meeting. So you want the whole packet or you just want a bullet on there that says discuss? I got you. I got
Do
you.
the bullet.
And what's the reason for the staple shortage? What do you,
There
what's
you
your?
go. The meeting's going off track, Chair.
Yeah, okay, agenda item for next meeting.
Oh, that's where I should have put it, I'm sorry.
Agenda, we'll put that under there.
Sorry.
Any new bulletin, things on the employee manual. Next meeting will be June 8th, 4:30 PM.
Yep.
Work for everybody?
Yep.
With that, we will adjourn at 10:06. Is that right?